If there's one question that I keep hearing on this channel, it is,
Hey, what's the deal with the Monte Carlo in the garage?
well, stay tuned because we're going to find out.
Yay!
Hey everybody, before we dig the Monte SS out for you to look at, I want to remind you all that we're doing a 750 subscriber giveaway. In case you missed that video, I'll put a link up to it in one of the corners here. Go ahead and click on that if you're interested in winning a free 3-piece set of Tekton composite ratchets completely on us as a thank you for subscribing and supporting this channel. Now, to the Monte. Well, here she is, ladies and gentlemen, all cleaned off, and you can see from a few feet away she doesn't look too terrible. The body's mostly straight, it's mostly rust free. Let's pop the hood and I'll talk a little bit about some of the problems she has and why I don't drive it. Under the hood we have what is essentially a bone stock 5-liter engine, also known as the 305. What made this L69 305 high output was a slightly more aggressive camshaft, a higher compression ratio of 9.5 to 1, and a truly awful computer-controlled variation of the Rochester Quadrajet. This engine made 180 horsepower at a screaming 4,800 RPM and 240 pounds of torque at 3,200 RPM. Hot Rod Magazine tested the 86 Montes when they were new, and they ran a blistering 15.9 seconds in the quarter mile at 87 miles per hour. However, in the 21st century, keeping one of these computer-controlled carbs working properly and your check engine light out is a task suited for those with extreme masochistic tendencies. Therefore, the only real modification that I have done to this barn burner of a 305 is to rip the computer-controlled Quadrajet off and throw on a regular one from the mid-70s. To do this conversion, you also have to swap out the factory distributor for a standard HEI unit. I just picked one of those up at the local part houses. It may have had 180 horsepower when it was new, but if you notice from the startup, this engine is getting a bit long in the tooth. It burns a pretty good amount of oil, enough sometimes to foul a spark plug, and it was not cared for by the previous owners. I once had to replace the intake gaskets and filled a small coffee can with sludge and hard carbon deposits from the lifter valley alone. No doubt this is partly due to the garbage oils of the 1980s, as well as unrealistically high oil change intervals suggested by the Chevrolet manual. I can't even get this thing to bark the tires now, and guess what? It's a one-wheel wonder. It doesn't have the optional posi traction rear end. The 4-speed transmission still works. Mostly. It has all 4 gears but no longer locks up the torque converter. Usually this is just a bad torque converter control solenoid issue, and I swapped one of those out for a new Borg Warner unit back in 2013, but it didn't fix the issue. So basically, the engine needs refreshed or replaced, and the transmission needs an overhaul as well. Now let's talk about paint. Well, for being a GM product and 34 years old, the paint could be much worse. It has a fair amount of chips and some random door dings, but no major rust issues. All the vertical surfaces are surprisingly good. It's the horizontal surfaces that are really degraded. They were when I got it as a bright-eyed 18-year-old just out of high school. The hood was actually so bad I sprayed it with some single-stage urethane in a temporary fix. 18 years ago. The SS nose took some damage along its journey before me and has some cracks and needs to be replaced or repaired. And the rear bumper cover has a buckle in it from what appears to be a manufacturing issue, one that is apparently common to the 83 to 86 SS cars. So in all, she could use some light body work and some fresh paint as well, but that wouldn't keep me from driving it, unlike the drivetrain issues. As far as the interior goes, things aren't too bad. The door panels are in pretty good shape. The pull handles on these G-body cars always lose trim pieces that cover up the screws. Mine was no exception. Those things went on an adventure many moons before I bought the car. The seats were covered when I got the car, and I just swapped out the ugly sheepskin covers for some Chevrolet ones that better jived with the car's interior. So the seats front and back are just plain excellent. The dash is solid. It only has one tiny crack near the defroster vent, but is otherwise perfect. The gauges on these cars are just plain junk. The speedometer is way off, the oil pressure gauge dances around like a meth enthusiast, and the temperature gauge just doesn't work at all anymore. You can't even read most of them at night because the dash lights on these cars are notoriously dim. It suffers from some other issues inside. The headliner is bad and being held up by thumbtacks that I dipped in some adhesive, and the center console door, well, it's broken. Another common issue on these cars. Basically, this is a great example of 1980s GM build quality inside. I know what you're thinking right now. What am I going to do with it? Why am I not fixing it up? Well, the basic issue is plain and simple. I just don't have the money. My life the last 10 years has been very difficult, and when I pay my bills, there just isn't anything left over for the car. This global economic downturn this year obliterated my first real opportunity in several years to change that when a job offer got retracted in April. I do sure hope I can fix it up someday, though. Yeah, I get mad at the car sometimes as it sits there. The longer I have it, the more it means to me and the more I see myself in it. It was with me when I was a young man and started down the path I thought would be my life. I went to college in this car. I met the woman I swore I would spend my life with in this car. It was with me when the Great Recession upended my planned career, and it was with me when I lost that relationship I swore would last forever. It was with me when my dad got leukemia. It was with me when he beat it. Much like me, this car has seen good times and it's seen bad times. It's been with me through my first chapter of life, and I hope that it can be with me for my second chapter, which is hopefully better for me and for the Monte. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, kick butt, take names, but most importantly, kill with kindness. This is Bobby D, and I'll see you on the next video.